Okay, welcome back to the main section of today's podcast where I have a fantastic author with me. He's just written the book that is Mental Health for Metalheads, and I'm very much looking forward to speaking to him about it. It's James Neeson. Hello, James.
Hello, Dan. Thank you very much for having me.
No, not a problem at all. Very excited to speak to you actually, because you are my first author I've had on the podcast, and it's been something I've wanted to do for a long time. So thank you for saying yes to coming on to the podcast. I'm going to talk a bit about your life musically first, before we do talk about the book. I want to ask, what were the first? I asked this question to musicians, by the way, as well. I want to ask, what were the first sort of musical sounds, first music that was playing in the household growing up?
Oh, my late mother really liked U2.
Mm,
Um, a lot of 80s music like Japan, like who Tin Drum, not the country,
mm.
like Japan the
Yeah,
band.
yeah.
Um, Bauhaus, The Cure, things like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
quite a alternative sort of background from before you got into your own music, I guess.
yeah, it probably helped, getting into my music. My mother was an incredibly musical um, person. I think if I had have had different parents, I mightn't have ended up such like a music lifer.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's always interesting to find out because different people have different sort of upbringings musically, and it's interesting to find out people obviously quite clearly from the selections of music you said there. It's quite clear that somebody in the household was a music fan, because those are the kind of artists really that are music fan artists, aren't they? They're not they're not the ones that are always on the radio, let's say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when did you start getting your own music taste then? Because I think this is going to lend itself more into the book and things like that.
I'd say turning into high school, say like the first year of high school was
Mm,
when Slipknot's first album came out.
mm,
Limp Bizkit started getting big in the UK. And then towards either the end of that year or the next year, all of your Papa Roaches and stuff were on the radio all the time. So I was very much that child of like the new metal Tony Hawk's Pro Skateboarder soundtrack
yeah.
era.
So obviously, like I've been looking on your Instagram profile and things like that, and I can see that you're a fan of not just new metal, you're also a fan of old school metal as well.
Definitely. Like new metal was the starting point. It's probably the type of music I listen to the least now. I'm not one of those people who's got really snobbish about it and pretends like I don't like it.
Mm,
Um, you know, uh, the albums I got into when I was like 11 or 12, I still
mm,
have respect for, and I'm not going to shame them, but they wouldn't be my favorite thing anymore. Uh, my favorite type of music is thrash metal, like
mm,
proper Testament, Exodus, Heathen, Violence, Forbidden, that kind of 1980s,
yeah.
usually American thrash. Like I love German, Brazilian, any of it to be honest. It's a lot of the British thrash bands, Acid Rain, Onslaught, Xentrix, etc. But I like any and all types of metal. Death metal, black metal, groove metal, all the metal, metalcore, metal this, metal the other, um, and metal adjacent stuff too. Hard rock, classic rock, punk
Yeah.
rock, hardcore. Um, have I said prog yet? Prog. Yeah, any and
Well,
all, anything adjacent to a guitar, I'll probably like it.
that's the thing. Prog is was the prototype to heavy metal in many ways, because Uriah Heep were such a heavy band at the time, and
Yeah,
I think that obviously Black Sabbath were around at very similar time. Debut album I think came out in the same year for both of them, but Uriah Heep was a bit more accessible, I think, for a lot of people, but it was also quite expansive and expressive in terms of they did look more to put it this way. Sabbath were more into the simple riffs at the start, whilst whilst Uriah Heep were a bit more expansive in their musical sound, I think, weren't they, in the way that they constructed the song, right?
Yeah, like, I feel like they're the middle ground between Yes and Sabbath. You know?
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Yeah, totally get that. Yeah, so obviously you've grown up being a music fan your whole life. How did you get into writing?
Um, I've never written before this book,
Oh,
unless you count Amazon reviews and blogs and
mm,
that sort of thing. And I don't want to segue into the book too quickly, but it was just literally, I think someone should write this book. Go on Amazon. Has anyone written this book? Huh. I guess I have to do it now. Okay, well then I guess I'll learn how to write. And then I'll go on the internet, learn how to write, etc., then write the book. But it it sounds really cheesy and it's not meant to, but like I just wanted to do this for the good of humanity because no one
mm,
else had done it yet. Interestingly, about three-quarters of the way through, maybe even 8/10 of the way through,
mm.
so someone else did put out a similar book. And I was like, oh well, if they had did that first, I wouldn't have had to. But here we are.
Well, I'm sure both books have their own merits in whatever way. Interesting. You said there you learn how to write. What does that involve?
Online courses, online forums, going on the Reddit for self-publishing. Um, my the person who is um, why am I not speaking English? My best friend is an English teacher and give me
Mm,
loads of hints and tips. Yeah, just all different ways. Podcasts, YouTube. Just had like a proper like deep dive into how to make it more professional seeming.
yeah.
You
Well,
know,
the thing is, I mean, this is the kind of book I feel. I mean, I should preface this. I haven't actually read the book, so I'm going into this interview completely blind to the book because the book isn't yet released. There is a
yeah.
pre-order available for it. It's out on July 1st. Am I correct?
Yeah, so the hardbacks June 1st and the paperbacks and Kindle are July 1st.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, that's great. So yeah, and there is a pre-order link on Amazon as well, which I have put in the description below for people. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
I think we need to talk about not a problem at all. I think we need to talk about. I think the question I need to ask is what is mental health for metalheads? What is this book?
So, it's a combination of things, really. So obviously, I didn't invent any of the, I didn't invent CBT, I didn't invent
Hmm.
DBT, I didn't invent ACT or ACT, but they don't like to pronounce it ACT, like to pronounce it ACT. I didn't invent any of these therapy modalities that are used in the self-help industry. So it's not like I'm creating this from scratch. But what I am doing is curating it, making a playlist of the greatest hits of it, and trying to translate it into examples that metalheads would, you know, uh, vibe with, enjoy, get that would help them make them feel seen.
Yeah.
And then I also made the book a bit fun for like, music obsessives by also turning it into a game where you see how many of the songs that you know or learn new songs as you go along. So the every chapter in the book is named after a rock or metal song.
Yeah.
Every subheading in each chapter is also named after a rock or metal song. It is a proper, legitimate self-help book. If you deleted all of the metal stuff out of it, it would still be a proper self-help book that you could sell
Hmm.
with clinically proven, strategies designed by psychiatrists, psychologists, neuroscientists, etc., to improve your mental health. So all of the actual content of it is legitimate mental health, is legitimately beneficial for your mental health. But I have kind of constructed it in a way that is, more entertaining for the metal fans. So if I don't know, if you read a lot of American self-help stuff, a lot of it might be kind of religious and kind of Christian. And if you listen to a lot of metal, it's devils and Satan and
Yeah.
throwing the horns, and so that might not be like the perfect fit.
Hmm.
Obviously there's a lot of Christian metalheads, not but
Yeah.
for the hardcore deicide fan
Mm.
who has an inverted cross on their head,
Yeah.
they're not maybe going to enjoy the more American Christian self-help stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of the self-help industry is very positive, smiley, pastel colored, and a lot of the kind of people who listen to like rock, emo, hardcore, metal, are skulls and black, and
Mm.
all the lyrics are,
Mm.
like there's a band called Negative Approach that says it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, I want it to be validating and honest, but still have the stuff that works. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like stripping it, so it's sort of like doing a cover. Like, say if you did a cover of like You Were Simply the Best, but like
Yeah.
you made it a death metal cover, like it would
Yeah.
still be Simply the Best, but it would be more to your taste
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're a death metal fan.
Yeah.
So just as one example, so I'll take things that recur in self-help books and make like a metal version of it. So I talk about like the reticular activating system, or RAS, in your brain is your filter of what you perceive of the world. So there's too much information in the world. There's like 1,000 different sounds you're hearing at the one time. There's like 50 different smells you're smelling at the same time. You can taste the own inside of your mouth.
Mm.
And there's like, hundreds of leaves on every tree. So like there's too much to take in at any one time. And there's a part of your brain called the RAS that decides and filters what you see. If you experience like depression or mental illnesses that cause a symptom of depression, like bipolar disorder or whatever,
Mm.
or like if you have schizophrenia and you're having the negative symptoms, don't want to get into negative and positive symptoms right
Yeah.
now, but positive symptoms are stuff like
Mm.
hallucinations, and negative are the stuff that takes away from you, like low
Mm.
motivation and stuff. But anyway, a lot of the people who experience mental illness, their RAS will be giving them a version of reality that is very dark and negative. So if you were walking along the street and there was like 5 smiling people and 1 scowling person and a dog turd, if you're mentally ill, you'll probably be focused on the dog turd and the scowling person.
Mm.
And if you're mentally well, you'll probably be looking at all the green trees and the nice flowers and the smiling
Yeah.
people. And it's the same world, but that part of your brain is filtering the information in a certain way. So I've used the example in the book of for the RAS of like a record label executive. So they decide, oh look, Motley Crue have just got popular, and Twisted Sister, or they've had a hit record. Go out and find me more hair metal bands.
Mm.
Or then it goes into the 90s and it's like, oh wow, Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and Nirvana are blowing up. Quick, get me more grunge bands.
Mm.
Or come to my era of of high school and it's
Mm.
oh, Limp Bizkit and Korn have blown up. Get me as many new metal bands as you can.
Yeah.
So the RAS is filtering the record label's catalog to
Mm.
be all new metal
Mm.
bands at that time. So that's just one example of many, but I'll just take bits of either the science of mental health, how the brain works, how the nervous system works, and explain it in metal terms, or some of the famous examples from self-help literature. Like there's a self-help author called Stephen C. Hayes, um, and he has a brilliant book called Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life. Buy that instead of my book. But in it, he has this exercise called Leaves on the Stream. And I've transferred that to like crowd surfers.
Mm.
So it's about like watching your thoughts as if there was a stream and you're just watching the water go, and each individual thought is a leaf, and like the leaf is there, but you don't have to like hold on to the leaf. It can just float away. And I've done that like, crowd surfers, like there's an audience,
Mm.
you're in the concert, a crowd surfer comes through, but like you don't have to spend your whole concert like trying to hold on to the crowd surfer. Just let them surf on past,
Yeah.
or and so forth. So like I don't want to bore you with like 500 pages of the whole book right now and not let you get a word in edgewise, but um, yeah, if I was to sum it up, it's a a legitimate self-help book that could totally stand on its own right, with all of the examples made suitable or like digestible for metal fans. Plus, it's also kind of a game where the whole thing is a big playlist, and how many songs can you recognize
Yeah.
from it?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a very unique concept. I mean, it's not a concept that I've seen before. Um, Anywhere really, to be honest. It sounds like an exceptionally unique concept, and I do want to say I have put a disclaimer at the beginning um of the audio version of the podcast that people will have heard right at the beginning. But I will say, obviously, now for people, obviously, we are going to be discussing topics of mental health, and obviously, some people might find that triggering or distressing, and anything like that. Obviously, we will try and be as have as much care and sensitivity around the subject. But at the same time, if people do still feel like they need help, obviously they can take a break or speak to a trusted person or professional in the field as well. So I do just want to just say that for people, just so they are aware, because I am going to ask some why questions as well, not probing why questions obviously, but why questions can open up any topic of any discussion. And that is kind of my next question. You touched on it a small amount, but why did you decide that this book was needed? I mean, you said obviously you're doing it almost for like the good of the people, right? So why did you feel that this book was needed to have been written?
So basically, since childhood, I've experienced mental illness. I've been diagnosed with a few conditions. I'm on the waiting list to be assessed for, others. Um, so like I don't mind saying like I have lived with mental illness since childhood, and I've gone through phases where it was pretty bad. And again, trigger warning, take a break. A long history of like self-harm,
Mm,
suicidal thoughts, near attempts, etc.
mm,
Um, End of trigger section. But while I was going through all that, the whole self-help thing, it never occurred to me to try it.
mm,
But I have like an enduring passion for heavy metal,
yeah,
and like I would buy a cookbook if it was like a heavy metal cookbook. I have bought video games because the front cover looked like a metal album. I
yeah,
read metal musicians' biographies. It's like a whole thing. It's
yeah,
like the whole of my culture and identity is
yeah,
tied up in music fandom. And I thought, it, when I did get well and I started reading self-help books, and got really into that as kind of a passion,
yeah,
um, it was like, this would have been so helpful 20 years ago. What if somebody had like merged the two?
yeah.
And I found this brilliant psychologist slash author on YouTube called Dr. Scott Eilers, and he wrote this book called For When Everything Is Burning. Plug, buy
Mm,
that instead of my book. It's great. Um, and For When Everything Is Burning, like, really changed my life. Superb book. But I found out later in one of his YouTube episodes that he was like a big fan of heavy metal, and I was like, wow. I just really wish like if I had found this guy when I was a teenager, like this, I would
mm,
have had such a better experience. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna write the book that I wish I had.
yeah,
Um, and like, if no one else, reads it, at least it'll be therapeutic for me to write it. And then I figured, like, if it only sells 3 copies, one of them will be to some teenager who will avoid 20 years of mental,
mm,
ill health
yeah.
because of it. So I just thought, I'll do it for the good of, for the exercise of doing it will be good enough for me, and then if anyone benefits from it, all the better. And I thought, like, I don't want to, like, I have a job, like I'm a nurse. I don't need to be an author for a living. I'm not an author for a living. This is, you know, a passion project.
Mm.
So I was going to give the book away for free, but my wife said that she had read online that nobody actually reads free books. Like, they download them and they say they're going to
Mm.
read them and they plan to read them, and then they never
They
do,
don't. Yeah.
and you just kind of stockpile them.
Mm.
So I thought, like, well, I'll charge them so that someone actually reads it, so it actually helps them
Yeah.
mentally. It's not like a vanity exercise making this book just to have a book out. Like, it was to actually help. So I thought I'll charge for it, but like I don't want to profit off people's mental illness
Mm.
either. So I
Yeah.
figured I'll give half the money to charity. I don't know, your listeners, you know, so like you have a broader demographic than me. Like I've seen on
Mm.
your Instagram, you know, Cream and like indie bands and all sorts.
Mm.
Um, but Oasis, etc. Um, but I'm sure, you know, being British and a music fan, a lot of your listeners would hopefully have heard of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation.
Yes,
So
I'd imagine so.
it, I don't want to kind of explain it wrong. So if you've not heard of Sophie Lancaster, you know, Google Sophie Lancaster and find out the backstory there. But there's a charity named after her, and it's kind of designed for like educating people against bullying and like stamping out hate
Yeah.
crime and intolerance of, you know, alternative people, alternative culture, etc. And I thought that is perfect because,
Yeah.
you know, I'm an alternative person who's went through, you know, years of bullying and mental health, and like that is like a perfect marriage of the mission of this book, like wanting to help those kind of people,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
like me, plus me not wanting to profit off the book. So it seemed like a good fit.
Well, that's the thing. I read about, obviously, the I read about the money going to the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, and that was one of my questions I planned to ask, about the amazing
Sorry.
work they do and everything. No, that's not a problem. Because you know, the amazing work they do and everything as a charity is obviously worthwhile. And as you say, you know, at the end of the day, this is a book that's there to help people, not to profit from, right? So putting the money that is made towards, you know, a good cause is exceptionally noble, and something to be admired, in my opinion. So yeah, kudos to yourself for that. Also, I want to mention, you mentioned Dr. Scott. Is it Eilers? He said, is it
Yeah,
pronounced? Yeah.
it's
So
spelled
he
Eilers
yeah,
and it's pronounced
he
Eilers, like eyeball.
Eilers. Yeah, he wrote the forward for the book, didn't he?
Yeah, that was you know, that would be like, you know, you getting Noel Gallagher on the podcast. You know, that for me was such a fangirl moment. You know,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe he said yes.
I mean, so I guess, did that feel like, was it kind of like, because obviously you've come into this obviously not having written before, and all from personal experience and research and everything like that. Did that feel quite validating in a way, having him do that?
It made the whole project A, worth doing in the first place, and B, legitimate, because he is an
Mm.
actual psychologist,
Yeah.
you know, who has years of experience. Um, like he's wrote a genuinely life-saving book. He's got another one out
Yeah.
this month actually. But you know, having him, what's the word? It, you know, tacitly endorse the book and not, you know, because he read it first and you know, to make sure it was okay, and the
Yeah.
fact that he okayed it was like, you know?
Yeah. Massive moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. I want to ask, actually, I mentioned about the research there. So how did you research for this book? How did you gather all the knowledge? Because obviously, you know, we've spoken already, you do come across as somebody who is very well versed within, you know, strategies to combat, or to live with, or to, you know, fight against whatever different word, or you know, whatever adjective you want to use, or verb you want to use. You know, you are someone who has a lot of knowledge in dealing with mental health um, issues based on the couple of examples you gave from the book earlier. How did you go about researching to find out all of
Uh,
that?
so a mixture of ways, really. So one my job is nursing. Like I can't talk too much about my job on, because of
Yeah,
social media policies and stuff. But I worked with hundreds of people who have experienced mental illness and died indirectly because of it
mm,
through
yeah,
um, addictions and accidents and all sorts and self-harm and drinking bleach and
yeah,
all sorts of horrendous things. I've had
mm,
people die in my arms,
yeah,
like not metaphorically, like literally. um
yeah, yeah,
so some of it's personal experience from work, some of it's personal experience from my own life, some of it is from my own I don't want to say healing journey. That's a very overused phrase, but some of it, I've been to therapy. I've been on, I still am on meds. I've had different types of
mm,
therapy, counseling, all sorts. So like some of it is learned as the patient. Some of it is like through the professional lens. And a lot of it was as a lot of the research was I'm going to hardcore research this to legitimately write a self-help book.
yeah,
So I'm going
yeah,
to read like 60 self-help books. I'm going to do a bunch of online courses. I'm going to watch every video on YouTube ever about mental
yeah,
health. I'm going to read, numerous papers in scientific journals. I'm going to learn how the brain
mm,
and nervous system work out. It just become a bit of like an obsession,
mm,
like an area of special interest, and I just did
yeah.
deep dives on it for like 18 months. Um, Before that, it was pro wrestling, would you believe? So it was really, really into WCW pro wrestling from the 90s,
Mm.
deep diving. But this one is more helpful for mankind.
Yeah.
So,
No, as I say, it's quite, as I used the word earlier, noble. I mean, in writing a book like this, especially one that's targeting a demographic of people that's close to yourself as well, in the metalhead community. It is a noble thing to write from. What it's like to be in the metalhead community, so you can write this book for that community, right? And yeah, I think it's really important to have things geared towards individuals more than it is towards the masses, right? And I think that's what this book does. I do want to ask actually, how do you feel like what? I'm going to phrase this question better because I asked the question in a couple of episodes ago and I was not happy with myself, so I'm going to make sure I phrase this one better. The, the way I'm going to phrase it is, what takeaways do you think that people will take, metalheads maybe specifically, will take from this book to implement into their daily life?
the biggest thing that helped me when I was mentally ill, well, I don't want to say when I was very unwell, the biggest thing that helped me was learning that mental health isn't this like ephemeral, unknowable, intangible, spiritual, thing
Mm,
that's outside of yourself. It's a very organic, physical thing. It's rooted in your brain, it's rooted in your nervous system, it's rooted
yeah.
in your organs, your endocrine system, your
Mm,
hormones. It's a very medical, biological thing that you can understand and that scientists have been working on, that it's not this inconquerable, unknowable, vague thing.
yeah.
It's very practical.
Mm,
That was, if there's one takeaway from the book, it's how practical treating treating is the wrong word, but how practical optimizing your lifestyle to reduce the
mm,
negative impacts of your mental illness is. Um, Specific to metalheads, it would be it's not as cheesy and shiny and white teeth American TV show host as you might think
yeah.
it is. if you've only seen like Instagram posts of like positive affirmations and said
Mm.
that's the self-help industry, that's not for me. There's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
By very trustworthy, scientific, legitimate sources.
Yeah.
And none of this book is my creation. It's like signposting you to people that are trustworthy, and
Mm.
filtering out the shysters and the
Yeah.
charlatans. I never
But
said the
that's the
word
thing.
charlatans like that before, but there you go.
Well, no,
On a-
but that's the thing though, because you know, for want of a better word, the real mental health industry, right? For want of a better word, can't think of one right now, but it is one that's not looking for clicks. It's not looking for profit. It's looking to
Mm,
benefit and make the world a better place, right? That, I mean, there's a scientific process behind everything within it, and science only looks to make the world a better place because we have more knowledge, and having more knowledge should in theory make us understand the world more, and understand the world more should in theory make us have better lives, and that's kind of the idea of it, right? So making sure you're guiding people, I guess that's quite important, isn't it, to the right place.
yeah, I don't want to, falsely portray myself as some kind of mental health expert. Like, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a
Mm,
psychologist. I have had psychiatrists and psychologists fact check the book, look over the book. I've had
mm,
contributions from mental health nurses and stuff, so like the
yeah.
book is trustworthy, but I'm not
Yes.
trying to say like I'm the king of mental health or something. I've written it from the point of view of I've been there too. I know how
Yeah.
hard it is. Let me save you the trouble of being lost, and let me,
Yeah.
like, I've deep dived this for 18 months, for hours a day,
Yeah.
to save you the trouble of just going, where do I start?
Yeah.
uh, but it's very much from a patient, a fan, a person who's been there's perspective, rather than the inventor of a new therapy or something.
Yeah.
I'm not a big shot.
100%.
So
Uh, One thing I want to ask you as well is, well, what advice would you have for anyone who may be struggling right now with mental health, mental illness, or they're just not going through the best time right now? What advice would you give them as someone who's not only done the research, but you could say someone who's been through it at points, or anything like that?
number one thing, right? If you are undiagnosed and you live with a lot of the symptoms of mental illness, but haven't actually gone to the doctor because of fear of stigma, or fear of not being taken seriously, or fear of it negatively affecting your job, like you're worried you won't get a promotion because,
Mm,
etc., etc., fear of someone finding out, all of those things. If you're undiagnosed, go to the doctor immediately. Like, pause this podcast, go to the doctor,
mm,
come back, finish the podcast, like
yeah.
that immediately. Um, unless you're watching at night, obviously. But yeah, the biggest thing I would say is, like, I struggle for years and years without going to the doctor first.
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, again, a trigger warning. Self-harming for years, suicidal thoughts
Mm,
for years,
yeah.
like close calls. Didn't go to the doctor.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, your mental illness tells you not to go to the doctor. It tells you, like, going to the
Mm,
doctor is like the worst thing. It's impossible. They won't believe you. There'll be a 9-year waiting list.
yeah.
The healthcare will be rationed to only the sickest people, and you're not sick enough. But, like, you are sick enough.
Yeah.
Go to the doctor. So that would be my thing if you're undiagnosed. And if you are diagnosed but are still not well yet, the biggest takeaway would be it is yet. There, like, in my book alone, which is one book out of a million books in the world, 10 million books. In my book alone, there's more than 600 different things you can do for your mental health. I'm betting you haven't done all 600 of them.
Yeah.
And I'm betting you haven't done all 600 of them for several months consistently. A lot of people will try like 5 things for their mental health, inconsistently on and off and conclude it didn't work, so I'm unfixable. I mean, I did, but before I got well, like I tried things on my own that I'd researched or
Mm.
not researched, but like I'd found on the
Yeah.
internet, or that loved ones had told me about, or that I'd seen on TV. Like I tried 5, 6, 10 things over 15 years, and they didn't work immediately, and I didn't
Mm.
keep them up for like a year, etc. And I was still
Yeah.
unwell, and I was like, I'm unfixable.
Mm.
Um, but it's not the real progress. And a psychiatrist told me, like, yes, that this is the real way it works. Um, there's no like one magic pill miracle cure. It's you doing dozens of little things over and over and over again,
Mm.
doing them in combination and doing them one after the other.
Yeah.
And that's like the real the real cornerstone of good mental health,
Yeah.
is building sustainable habits that you just repeat and repeat and repeat for things that are scientifically proven to be good for your brain and or nervous system
Yeah.
and
No,
or
it's,
gut microbiome.
well, 100% correct. It's yeah, and as you say, you're going from a point of science, a point from experience. So yeah, 100%. That's my agreement as well. I want to also ask you about a little bit away from that. How did you publish the book actually as well? Is it an independent publication, or have you gone to a publisher, etc.?
No, I never even thought to go to a publisher. I just didn't think anyone would. Not that anyone would be interested, but just like it's so specific. Who would you publish it with? Would you publish it with a self-help publisher or a music
Mm,
publisher, or you
yeah.
know, I don't. I think it falls in between the cracks of the things that they are looking for specifically. So like I just self-published it. So it's coming out initially on Amazon through their KDP. So if anyone's
Mm,
if anyone's ever looked into self-publishing before, like that's the pretty much the world's #1
yeah.
self-publishing platform. Um, and I'm also working at the minute to go through a different company to get it into non-Amazon services. So
Mm.
that there's a couple of, well, there's many, but there's a couple of big um, other self-publishing what's the word, companies who will
Mm,
get your book into other stones. Like they can get it into Barnes and Nobles and Waterstones and
yeah.
stuff. So I'm going to do both. KDP is the fastest route to the biggest
Yeah.
marketplace, which is Amazon, unfortunately for the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I'm going to use another service to put it elsewhere. And
Yeah.
through trying to promote the book, a few people have reached out to me. Like there's a record shop in London who said they want to stock a few copies. There's a place in Glasgow. So I'll get the book out there some way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's excellent to hear it's going out obviously to all sorts of places. Yeah, record shops are a great place for books, to be fair. Loads of books get sold in record shops, which is surprising, but they do. So it does work. So yeah, definitely sounds great there. Can you James, actually I need to say thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. I really do appreciate it. And it's been wonderful to hear not only about the book, but also about your story as well. And I want to thank you for sharing the way you have, because obviously I know, as we say, as you've been saying, trigger warning subjects can be triggering, or they can be, upsetting for some. So thank you so much for doing that. I want to give you a moment though to let people know where they can find your book online and where they can find you online as well.
Sure. So me online, it's James Neeson author on Instagram, or Mental Health for Metalheads is my Facebook group. Um, I'm also on Substack, YouTube, TikTok, any of the social media platforms. It's either James Neeson author or at Mental Health for Metalheads, just to kind of get it to as many people as possible. And the book at the moment, the Kindle is available for pre-order on Amazon. And soon the hardback and paperback will be out on Amazon too, followed swiftly by other retailers as well. But the process is slightly slower than the Amazon process.
Yeah. No problem. No, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast, James. We'll wrap up quickly after the recording. But
No
as I say, I
worries.
just want to say a huge thank you for coming onto Music Fishbowl.
Thank you for having me. Um, could I quickly plug a few of my friends as well?
Of course you can. I've got no problem with that.
So the book was illustrated by an artist called 1024. So that's like the time of day 1024.
Mhm.
So look for him on Bandcamp if you like extreme metal. As well, it was edited by the host of the False Face podcast. So if you like podcasts and heavy metal, go to the False Face podcast. Like he's interviewed Nick Barker from Cradle of Filth and Dimmu
Mhm.
Borgir. And then also, I just wanted to shout out my friend Mike Ladano from the Grab a Stack of Rock podcast as well. Yeah, so it's not like it's not a solo effort writing a book. We've talked very much about me, but writing a book is really a
Yeah.
team effort. So I just thought other people need credited as well.
I know exactly the feeling. I had it when I released my record as well. There's a team effort. There's 3 or 4 other people minimum behind it. There's always a support group around it, which kind of ties into what we've been talking about as well. So yeah, James, thank you very much for coming on to Music Fishbowl.
Thanks so much.
No problem. And